Well, we're in our series on theism versus atheism. Which makes better sense? Thus far, we have considered the finite universe and the fact that the universe began. It's not infinite, which seems to demand that its genesis came from something beyond itself, because we all know that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Since the universe began to exist, clearly it has a cause beyond itself. Next, we looked at the physical laws which govern the universe, the anthropic principle. And there we explored just briefly how the laws of physics all converge at a single point to permit, promote, and sustain human life on Earth. Astounding. Now that means that the dials or the settings of these physical laws had to be fixed with exquisite precision, in some cases down to 1 part out of 100 trillion. There, it seems better, more logical, to believe that a designer set those dials than that they just all randomly fell into the proper place with precision by chance. And today we're going to think about the sophisticated complexity of human life. The psalmist certainly was right when he wrote, "We are fearfully and wonderfully made." And he didn't know the half of it. We are, the Bible declares, God's magnum opus, his great work. So where do we begin talking about the sophistication of a human being? We could talk about the 100 trillion cells that comprise the typical human body. Wow! Did you know that your body contains 100 trillion cells, each cell with enough genetic information to fill a large library? And that since the time I began talking, 50 to 100,000 cells died in our bodies and were rebuilt and replicated and transported to the proper places they were needed. Wow, it's just beyond imagining. But let's limit our brief discussion to a rather cursory assessment of the human mind. The human mind is the most sophisticated, complex, exquisite piece of technology that we know of in the universe. And that is not hyperbole. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking right now. You may be thinking, wait a minute. I know some people with brains, and it ain't that great. Well, maybe that's because we typically only use about 2% of our brain's capacity. And I grant you that is more obvious in some than in others. But be that as it may, the human mind is phenomenal, such that a piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand contains within it 100,000 neurons and 1 billion synapses or connectors. And they're all communicating one with the other. Without question, the human mind is the most sophisticated piece of technology in the universe that we are aware of. It's so amazing that a group of computer scientists built a supercomputer whose one task was to seek to simulate human brain activity for 1 second. And so they have this computer and they want to challenge the human mind and see if the computer can simulate 1 second worth of human brain activity. And this is no ordinary computer. This is Japan's K supercomputer. In 2011, the Japan K supercomputer was the most powerful computer on Earth. And in 2014, this supercomputer challenged the human mind to a square-off and challenged that it could do what the human brain is doing all the time for 1 second. That's quite a challenge. And so the Japan supercomputer, the K computer, began its challenge. It was warming up for 40 minutes. It had affixed to it 83,000 processors, all of them working together in full tilt, seeking to take on the activity of the human mind for 1 second. Who would win? The human brain. The Japan K supercomputer, after 40 minutes of ramping up to full tilt, being assisted by 83,000 processors, was only able to achieve 1% of human brain activity for 1 second. Not the entire brain, but 1% of human brain activity for 1 second. Wow. That's fantastic, isn't it? Such is the exquisite technology of the human mind. So what's the conclusion I would draw from this story? Well, no one would believe, even for a fraction of a second, that the Japan K supercomputer, most powerful computer on Earth in 2011, was the product of time and chance. Anyone who suggested such an absurdity would be laughed right out of the room. But if we wouldn't believe that about the inferior piece of technology, why would anyone assert such a ludicrous proposition concerning the superior piece of technology, the human mind? No one would. Because everyone knows that sophisticated, complex, integrated processes, the technology such that is the human mind, comes from only one place, and it's not time and chance. It only comes from a brilliant designer. That is rudimentary. And that argues unambiguously for the presence of a brilliant, sophisticated, powerful engineer, the likes of which we can only imagine. Clearly, there is a designer. I hope you'll join me next time as we consider some of the very fatal serious flaws in naturalism's explanation for this kind of exquisite technology, as we begin to look at problems associated with Darwin and evolution. I hope you'll join me then.